Today I'm going to show you how to become a troubleshooting hero for your users. Oh, just a minute. Hello, HOnza speaking. How can I help you? Oh, your FileMaker is crashing when you try to print an invoice. Wow. And have you tried to restart your computer? You did. Okay. And is anyone else having the same issue as you? You're the only one. Okay. Can you ask someone to print the invoice for you so that we can come tomorrow to check your computer? Oh, you can't wait for tomorrow. Okay. Can you use a different computer? What? The different computer does the same thing? And you're the only one having the same issue? Oh. So can you tell me what you were doing before having this issue? Can you be more specific, please? You can. Do you see where this is going? Maybe 10 more minutes on phone and a very hard time trying to reproduce the problem that the user is having. And do you think the user is going to see me as a hero? Do you think I'm going to feel as a hero? No, because I don't even have a clue what's happening there. As the only user having the issue, even on a different computer. Well, have you ever had a similar situation, accepting a tech support call like this and being in the same situation? Raise your hands, please. Okay, great. So this is actually something that happened to my team several years ago when we got a support call from our own user in 2.4u. Luckily, at that time, the affected feature was not as critical as invoicing. It was performing fine. So we were glad that we got about a few days to try to reproduce the issue and fix it. But we have learned something very important about how a user feels when calling for tech support. Frustrated. The problem when a user calls for tech support is that the user has his task for the day, and the software that he's using is just a tool that he uses to accomplish the task that he has. So when he calls for tech support, he calls because his tool has broken and he cannot do his work. But users are very smart, and before they call tech support, they try to fix their tools themselves. So when they call you, they are already behind the schedule. They are frustrated because of the situation, and they are hoping that you can just use a magic wand and make the tool work again. But the truth is that you have a negative time to fix the problem. However, it seems counterintuitive. Your primary goal at this moment is not to fix the software. Your primary goal is to make the user able to work again as soon as possible. And if you can do it immediately during the call, that's what's going to make you feel like a hero, be perceived like a hero, and do the great tech support job. But the biggest problem with the user helping you to fix the problem immediately is that a frustrated user hardly remembers what he was doing a minute ago. And what you need to know is exactly what the user was doing to reach the situation with the problem so that you can reproduce the issue and fix it. So it's much better to have another reliable source of that information so that the user doesn't have to be that source. So take a look at another example, what a support call could look like. Hello, this is HOnza Koudelka speaking. How can I help you? Oh, your FileMaker is crashing when you try to print an invoice. When has this happened exactly? A minute ago? Let me check. Oh, okay, I see. So I see you opened the system, then you went to the layout with the list of all invoices, selected one, and then use the file menu and the print command to try to print the invoice. Is that right? Okay, listen, there is one more way to print an invoice. It's the more usual one that's used by other users. Can you open the invoice now for me and look at the lower right corner. There should be a button called print. Can you click that button, please? Did it work? Great. So it seems that the problem is that for some reason the file menu method doesn't work as expected. And we probably didn't know about it because no one's using it, so no one's reported it. So can you please, for now, use the print button to print the invoice? And we will let you know once we fix the file menu method. Okay, great. Is that everything? Fine. So have a great day. What do you think? Is that a better way to handle tech support? Am I now going to be perceived like a hero for the user? So right now, I have used another source of information other than the user. So the user didn't have to know what he was doing before calling me. And it helped me to immediately spot the problem, find a workaround, and suggest the workaround to the user. And at this moment, I have made the user able to work and got enough time for my team to fix the software problem. Okay, so now that's the feeling perspective of the user and myself. But how about the business perspective? And what is business about? Money. So how much does it cost me to take a support call? What do you think? First of all, I should take into account that there are at least two people who are wasting time when I'm on the tech support call. Me and the user that's calling me. And don't forget that the user has already wasted some time trying to fix the problem himself. So it's not only the time on the call, but also some other time has been already wasted for the user. And the more users are affected, the more time they are wasting. And of course, the higher they are on the org chart hierarchy, the more costly the time of the users are. More costly the time of the users is. Anyone knows here what a wasted minute of Tim Cook's time is worth? I'm not saying that Tim Cook calls me for tech support, although it would be great, but guess who would be more nervous for every minute not being able to solve Apple CEO's issue? I would be extremely nervous. So that's the time of the users that's calling for support. But even if I'm not taking, if I'm not helping as important person as a Apple CEO, there's also my time that's costing me money. And what do you think? When do users call for support? Can you schedule that? No, you can't. So, and what do you think? Is the time that you schedule equally expensive as the time that you cannot schedule? Even when you get a 5-minute support call, the distraction is causing you to waste much more time, maybe double. If I'm an average FileMaker developer, the tech support guy and the developer are sharing the same body. And at that time, tech support call time is at least twice as expensive on my side as the development time which I can schedule. So based on my practice, in most cases, the cost of tech support call is at least 4 times as expensive as the scheduled development time. In the beginning, I told you that the sample support call that I was showing here is something that actually happened in 2.4u several years ago. What I didn't tell you yet is that later on, during the past year or two, we had many such support calls which already were related to critical features where the users couldn't wait. Luckily, these more serious issues happened after we started logging every user's action. So we had access to that another reliable source of information about what users were doing, and we were able to quickly see what was causing the problem, reproduce the problem, and fix it much faster than we were able 3 years ago. And many of you already know what specific tool we use to have this information available. We use our own tool called FMBench. How many of you already know something about FMBench? Great. And now, how many of you who know FMBench have thought about using it for anything else but speed optimization or comparison of speed of different features? Anyone? Neither me. And this happened as accident about a year ago, that we originally developed FMBench as a tool for helping us to optimize FileMaker solutions performance. But what we learned is that we only used it about 3 times within a year to optimize our solution. But within that same time frame, we used the data that we are getting from FMBench at least 15 times to help us troubleshoot problems. So the value that we are getting from using it for troubleshooting is maybe 10 times higher than the value we are getting from the optimization. And that was a very interesting discovery. And the point is that we never turn it off. When a user calls for support, we always have the log. We can check it, and we know what the user was doing a minute ago, 5 minutes ago. And if we don't know enough details, we can just add more logging into the specific feature that has the problem, and the next time the user is using the feature, we immediately have enough information to fix it. And interestingly, about the same time we figured this out, my customer has figured the same thing out. The customer was Dean Bedford, founder of a company called Planet Systems Group. Dean built a FileMaker-based solution, sales management system for his customer, Mountain Lumber in Central Virginia back in 1997. After 16 years of continuous development, Dean purchased FMBench to implement it into this legacy system in order to find out how it's being used by the users and how it could be optimized. After implementing FMBench, Dean was able to see which scripts were used and which were not. He was also able to audit the speed of his solution to identify the piece of the code that needed to be optimized. And after examining the users, how the users use the system, Dean was even able to use to make the customer become more effective, more productive. What do you think? How did he do this? He focused on a few key scripts and counted how many times each user is running those scripts. And he discovered that the salespeople who run the scripts more often are making more sales than the users they run them less often. So he proved that his system is actually helping the company to make more sales. And this was key finding, because then they could train the users who use the system less to use the system rather than trying to use their intuition, and that helped them to make more sales. So not only optimizing the code, but FMBench helped him to optimize the processes and the business to produce more sales. He also discovered there was one user adding an additional step to the process of creation of price quote. So they trained the user to use the system properly, more efficiently, and he was making more sales as well. But that was nothing compared to what happened later. One day, Dean got a call from the customer saying, "Hey, Dean, I have this new salesperson who's saying that the system doesn't work. Can you please call him and fix it so that he can do his work?" And Dean was quite surprised, but he's very serious about providing good customer care and the quality of his system. So he first wanted to check where the problem might be, because he would prefer to call the user and say, "Yes, hey, you're doing this mistake, and when you do this differently, the system will start working for you." So he checked the log that he already had, and guess what he discovered? Who thinks that the problem was a technical issue? Raise your hands. No one. Okay. Who thinks that the problem was the user? You're right. However, the new salesperson wasn't doing any mistake in the system. He discovered that the user, after starting the system for the first time in the first day in the office, never used the system again. So the user was reporting that the system doesn't work, but the reason why it didn't work was that he didn't open it at all. I don't know at this moment whether the user was fired or trained, but the point is that Dean, my customer, saved maybe a day worth of time he would otherwise spend trying to fix the problem. Instead, he knew that immediately that the problem was the user. He could tell that to the customer and didn't have to waste that day of support time. So that single case might have saved him worth of $1,000 of billable time. And this leads me to the actual value we have got from having FMBench implemented. And that's a new, better way to handle tech support. Do you recall the two sample calls from the beginning? In the first example, I was asking, what exactly did you do before the problem appeared? In the second call, I asked, when has this happened? And as you remember, the frustrated user hardly ever remembers what happened, what he was doing during the last minute or two. But the user, in most cases, pretty exactly can tell when the problem appeared. Why? Because when he's behind the schedule, we cannot work. Time is his biggest enemy. And it's natural to watch your enemy very carefully. So the frustrated user doesn't know about anything in detail, but he knows exactly how time is flowing. And once you have the log and you get the time information from the user, you can narrow the log records by time and see exactly what the user was doing. So this way, we redefine the support process, asking different questions, having different source of information, and that makes us able to handle tech support much faster and much more efficiently. And when you have this information, you basically have two options. In most cases, you compare the process that the user is performing to the standard process. If it's different, you can suggest just following the standard process as a solution, and in most cases that will help. If he follows the standard process, or if following the standard process doesn't help to fix the problem, you have the exact steps to reproduce the problem, and you can quickly find the error in your system and fix it. But if you find the workaround, that's the fastest way how to make the user able to work again, of course. Why this is making so big difference? In April, 2-4U hosted already 6th annual Teachers Summit in Prague. And this year we had a special guest from Apple, that was a man whose position is called innovation instigator. He talked about different levels of integrating computer technology in education. And of course, he was talking about iPad, because iPad is now the main thing that Apple is pushing to schools, and that's helping schools to improve the way they teach students. But he made a very good point that applies everywhere, not only in education. And depending on how you use the new tools, you can just make a small modification, small improvement, or you can start a transformation, whether it's in education or in business. And he used the SAMR model to explain this. Is anyone here familiar with the SAMR model? So the SAMR model SAMR is an acronym for substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition. These are 4 levels of computer technology utilization in education. The SAMR model was developed by Dr. Ruben Puentedura as a method of evaluating how computer technology impacts education and teaching and learning. The key idea is that when we just take a computer or an iPad and use it as a replacement for existing tools, such as when replacing a printed book with an e-book, for example, we achieve just small improvement, small enhancement, such as less heavy school bags. But it doesn't change the teaching process. That remains the same. But if we are smart enough to take advantage of the new technologies and their offerings, their abilities, we can create something new. We can create new processes. And this simple model spoke to me and my colleagues in 2-4U so strongly that we thought about if we could apply it to business as well. So we did a quick research in our own projects for the last few years. And we discovered that we actually have experience with every single of these 4 levels. We could immediately see how different ways of using technology impacts changes in business processes. For example, when migrating a solution from FileMaker 6 to FileMaker 11, we were just simply replacing an old tool with a new one. We were not changing any processes. We were applying substitution at this moment. But that's not wrong, because if you have a working business, if you have processes that work fine, you don't want to break them. Sometimes you need to replace the tool to achieve to open new possibilities, but you do want to do substitution. So it's just fine to work in every single of those 4 layers, but it's very important or useful to know in which layer you are actually currently working. In another example, adding a new report while not touching the existing processes, that's augmentation. When we used FMBench to spot a bottleneck and optimize the process, that was modification, because we changed the process. We could, for example, change the order of things happening or remove a single step of the process. But when we started utilizing FMBench to log user actions and help us with our troubleshooting process, we entered transformation. And at that point, we were producing the highest value. So when we go to redefinition, it's most likely going to be the most amount of work, but it's likely to also give you the biggest chance to build something new and to produce a great value. So if you like it, if you no longer want to keep doing the same thing the same way or just a little bit better, if you want to redefine your troubleshooting, don't hesitate and start today. You can get FMBench and very easily. We have a simple licensing. If you want to deploy it on a server, you pay just a single license fee for the server, and you have license for unlimited number of users. You can also download free demo of FMBench, so you can start free of charge. And it's easy to add to existing solutions.
That's all for now. I would like to thank you for watching this video to the end, and because I value your time you have spent watching it, let me give you 30 minutes of my time in return. Just use this link and schedule one free 30-minute consultation. I look forward to talking to you.